When the first days of autumn cast their spell on Mount Timpanogos and the leaves begin their annual wardrobe change, students from the world over begin to arrive on the beautiful Brigham Young University campus. From Europe, from Asia, the Middle East, Canada, and Mexico, from South America and the island of the Pacific, from all parts of the United States, they come to participate in the stimulating spiritual and academic atmosphere of the BYU. In addition to its high spiritual and academic standards, the Brigham Young University is also noted for the wholesome friendliness of its social activities, which contribute so much to a lifetime of happiness and achievement. BYU students pursue varied fields of interest, with religion serving as a common denominator which contributes materially to their maturity and understanding. Here, students come from religion classes in the Joseph Smith Memorial Building to enter science classes in the new Physical Science Building. There is no real conflict between science and religion. The fall of the year, however, is ruled by King football, and when game time nears, there is intense interest in the clean, hard-playing team fielded by Coach Dick Atkinson and his staff.
This is Dean Bennett at the football stadium to bring you, on behalf of Phillips 66 dealers everywhere, the thrilling heights of the 1953 BYU football season. Cheering section, which you'll see more of later on. But let's go now to Boise, Idaho, and see the highlights of the BYU University of Idaho football game. As we pick up the action, quarterback Ron Bean is handing off to Phil Euler, who cuts through the center of the line, still going downfield, gets hit from behind by an Idaho player, and finally dropped to the ground on the Idaho 38-yard line. Back into play, moving out with the ball. He looks for a pass receiver, gets it away, and it's a craze. The ball is bounced up in the air to be intercepted by an Idaho player. He moves wide to his own right, gets hit by guard Merrill Hardy of BYU. The ball squirts into the air to be picked up by Don Wood, who plunges into the end zone for the BYU score. Once again, it's back in for BYU and Ron Bean quarterbacking. Hands off in slow motion to right half Dick Felt. Felt swings inside his own left end. Moves away from the Idaho players. Some fine blocking, moves him out into the open, swings around another Idaho player as he cuts down towards the Idaho 20. Crosses the 20, moves on to the 15, the 10. Another Idaho player coming up, but he is taken out on a fine block by Brigham City, Utah's Phil Euler, as Felt moves on into the end zone for another BYU score. The highlight of the entire season came with the annual BYU U of U game. Here you see the card tricks performed by the BYU cheering section, which captivated a TV audience of some 60 minutes. The card section started out spelling out the word Utah. Here you see the nation's emblem, the eagle. Down on the field, the Brigham Young University Air Force ROTC band and the Cougarettes formed an outline of the United States, and unfurled in the center was an enormous United States flag, which was duplicated by the card section with their colorful red, white, and blue cards up in the stands. Since this was Thanksgiving Day, the card section drew out the picture of a pilgrim, and underneath the word, thanks. Then, as the team approached the field, up went the cards, and the word Cougars was spelled out down across the card section. Flanked by the cheering Cougarettes, the BYU team trotted onto the field, ready to do battle on this Thanksgiving Day with Utah University's Utes. At the coin toss out in the center of the field, acting co-captains George Bowman and Reed Stolworthy were assisted by other seniors playing their last game for BYU. They were, left to right, Merrill Hardy, Levon Satterfield, Don Woods, Dewey Brundage, Ned Alger, and DeRay Ayer. Now the Thanksgiving Day action is underway. Levon Satterfield, quarterbacking the Cougars, calls out his first signals of the day, moves back, looks for a pass receiver, and tosses one out to All-American candidate end Marion Probert, who is hit right on the near sidelines. Back into play come the white-shirted Cougars once again. Satterfield still quarterbacking for the Cats. calls out his signal. This time he spins, hands off to Dick, who cuts inside his own left end, spins down the field on some nice broken field running, is hit by Utah players, and is down. And there's the first signal of many, 1st and 10 for BYU on that day. Once again, Satterfield goes back, starts to run the ball, swings wide around his own right end, then sees Marion Probert running free, tosses a pass to him, and Probert is dropped out of bounds on the 11-yard line. Once again, it is BYU coming out, and another pass is away by Satterfield, this time to right half Dick Felt, who is dropped on the 1-yard line. Into play come the Cougars on that one, and it's Don James receiving the handoff from Satterfield, mulling his way into the end zone for the TD. Moving back downfield, we pick up BYU's offensive action again later in the game. Levon Satterfield, still quarterbacking the Cougars, goes back and again taking to the air, spots Tom Verbanitz free, hits him with a flat pass. Verbanitz is immediately smothered by Utah's players, but the pass is complete, and there's another 1st and 10 for the Cougars. Again, Satterfield goes back, this time looking for a pass receiver and finds him in Don Woods out to his left. Woods takes in the pass, is hit and dropped for another nice gain. Coach Chick Atkinson chooses to change quarterbacks now, sending in another Idaho youngster, Henry West. West on his first play hands off to Phil Euler, who cuts inside the right end, moves downfield, is hit by a host of Ute players, and finally dropped on the Utah 32. Back into the huddle will go the big white-shirted Cougars, breaking out into their split T formation once again. And here West starts the first of some of his fancy passing for the Thanksgiving afternoon. The recipient of his first pass is Dewey Brundage, big right end who starts downfield. West goes back. There goes the flat pass out that Brundage reaches up into the air to haul down. He swings into a host of Utah players, bounces off one, and skids to the ground on the 30-yard line in Utah territory. The officials spot the ball, while BYU goes back up to think up some more headaches for the Utes. They come out, line up, and again West goes back to pass for the Cougars. He turns, looks out, finds Phil Euler moving down the far sideline, spots him with a pass. Euler moves 8 yards to be pushed out of bounds by one of Utah's players. It's another 1st and 10 for BYU, and the officials toss the ball in from the sidelines to the inbound spot to be spotted. It will now be West quarterbacking the Cougars once again, and this time the pass coming to Dick Felt, moving out to the near side of the field. They get set. West gets the snap from center Paul Kochever, goes back, starts looking for the pass receiver, finds Felt running free and spots him. Felt hauls in the pass very beautifully, but his momentum carries him out of bounds. On the 1-yard line, it's BYU starting 2 ground plays, as Reed Stolworthy, hard-hitting fullback for BYU, plunges into a solid wall of flesh to be stopped short of that goal line. But again, it's Stolworthy, who's the middle man of the T formation for BYU, getting set, getting the handoff, and skirting around the left end into the end zone for the BYU 6 points. Here's a Utah offensive play now as All-American candidate Don Rydalch goes back, passes out to have it intercepted by Dick Felt. Felt turns, starts up the field, gets some good blocking from his BYU teammates, hits to the 25, the 30, and is hit on the 34-yard line and knocked out of bounds. Satterfield is back into the ball game once again in the quarterback post. Moves down the line of scrimmage, gets hit, turns, laterals back to Don James. James moves out to the sidelines, races down. One Utah man after another misses him. The final one just brushing his shoulder at the 10-yard line as James moves on into the end zone, and another BYU TD. Again, Utah has the ball and are pushed back deep into their own territory. Lewis Mealy kicking from behind the Utah goal line. Gets away a low kick that bounces down to the in Utah territory, the 45, where Phil Euler picks it up. Looks over his field, then moves out. Euler picks it up. Looks over his field, then moves out wide to the near side. Gets hit on the 27-yard line and pushed out of bounds. But the Cougars once again and are not to be denied. Ron Bean comes in as quarterback. Coach Chick Atkinson mixing up his players all day. Everyone seeing plenty of action. Bean gets the ball, fakes one handoff. The second one goes to Phil Euler, who hits through the right side of the line, bucking his way to about the 12-yard line. Again, Ron Bean calls for the BYU fullback, Don James, to come into action. James gets set back on the 15. The snap comes back to Bean, turns, hands to James, who goes through the center of the line, misses one Utah player, gets hit at the goal line, but his momentum carries him into the end zone for the 6 points. Picking up the action once again as BYU moves into offensive formation, Ron Bean, still quarterbacking the Cats, gets the players set in the split T formation. calls out his signals, turns, hands off to Phil Euler, who's through the center of the line. Gets hit after a gain of about 7 yards. Some mighty fine and some hard line play dominated the game all day long. Bean once again quarterbacking, this time with a handoff to BYU's fleet little right halfback, Dick Felt. Felt swings around, left end is still going, racing to the 50, to the 40, moving on down to the 30, is hit and dropped at just the 32-yard line by a host of red-shirted Utes. It's another 1st and 10 for BYU, and at this point, Coach Dick Atkinson chooses to send in Henry West to do the quarterbacking duties. West moves back, sees Phil Euler downfield, spots him for a pass. Euler hauls it in, moves out wide to the far side, skirts to the 10, the 5, and over for another of BYU's numerous touchdowns. And that ended the ball game. BYU's joyous team picking up their coaches on their shoulders and marching off the field with them.
And so another one that left deep impressions in the minds of BYU students as they move on into the school year. Ever thankful and appreciative of the fine tradition of sportsmanship. Fine tradition of sportsmanship.